If you don't transfer ownership of this house to me, I may contemplate divorce. I was taken aback when my husband suddenly informed me about this. This house is brimming with cherished memories of our family, making it difficult for me to part with it. However, my husband is pressuring me, seemingly playing with my emotions. Distraught, I reached out to my father for assistance. I am Emily, 30 years old, a full-time homemaker dedicated to supporting my family through daily household chores. I married John 2 years ago, and since our marriage, I quit my job as my husband worked diligently to provide for us. However, our peaceful life took a drastic turn when my father-in-law passed away, and my mother-in-law moved into our apartment. To my surprise, I was only informed of my mother-in-law's impending move the day before she arrived. Nonchalantly, my husband casually mentioned, as if it were the most natural thing, "Your mother is coming over to visit tomorrow, right?" I responded, "No, she's not visiting, she's moving in. So please prepare and clean up." I was left in disbelief. My husband's decision to have my mother live with us was made unilaterally, without any prior discussion, as if it were already a done deal. The very next day, my mother-in-law moved into our home with a lot of luggage. "Luggage, it's been a while. I'm glad to see you're looking well, Mary. Please, come in." As I greeted her, Mary appeared displeased for some reason. "Emily, why didn't you come to pick me up? Isn't it common sense to meet at the station when you know your mother-in-law is coming, especially when I'm carrying such big luggage? But I didn't know what time you'd arrive." "In that case, shouldn't you have contacted me? You're so thoughtless." "I'm sorry. This is why they say some daughters-in-law are useless," I muttered. Grumbling, my mother-in-law sank heavily onto the sofa. Despite being a guest in our home, she acted as if she owned the place. I couldn't believe it. From that day on, my mother-in-law's snide comments became even more intense. As soon as my husband left for work, the barrage began. "Emily, why are you sitting there? Do the dishes. You should have finished the laundry in the morning. That's common knowledge." "I'm sorry. I'll do the laundry once the dishes are done." "You have the wrong priorities. In my house, the rule is to do the laundry immediately after breakfast. But that rule is just do as you're told. Haven't your parents taught you not to make excuses?" I had my own daily routine, but she couldn't seem to understand that. I wasn't refusing to do the work, it's just that Mary couldn't accept my way of doing things. Even if I did things her way, she would still find fault and complain every day. The daytime hours alone with her were the worst. One day, I had an epiphany on how to end this living hell with my mother-in-law. The plan was to move to the house I inherited from my father and live in a separate home from her. My father had retired early a few months ago, and as a result, my parents had started a new life in the countryside. My parents eventually passed their house on to me. Fortunately, the house isn't too far from our current apartment, and we had plans to move there eventually. Living with my mother-in-law had become unbearable, so I decided to discuss moving with my husband earlier. "John, can we talk for a moment?" I asked. "What's up?" "Anything happened," he responded. "Do you remember the house my father gave us? What do you think about moving there?" "Oh, that house. We did talk about moving there someday. Why the sudden decision?" "Well, I've been having some difficulties with your mother. She may not have mentioned anything, but I can't bear living with her anymore. That's why I'm seriously considering moving." "I see. The new place isn't too far. I guess we can move, and she can stay in this apartment." Surprisingly, my husband agreed to the move. After informing Mary, we decided to move a week later. Honestly, I thought she would oppose, but she accepted our decision with a big smile. "Goodbye, John and Emily. I'm so sorry for the sudden decision to move," Mary said. "Don't worry about it. It's wonderful that your father gave you the house. He's very sweet." "Thank you. Please visit us sometime," I replied. "Of course, it's not too far from here, and I hope you visit me regularly too." "I will." After the conversation, I headed to our new home with my husband, feeling relieved that I wouldn't have to hear snide remarks from her anymore. From now on, I could live freely at my own pace. However, my peace did not last. Although I could keep my distance from my mother-in-law and reduce stress, my husband started coming home late. It wasn't just the late returns. There were days when he wouldn't come home at all because he was visiting his mother. He defended his actions, saying he was worried about her, but it became too frequent. Without telling me, he went to her house, had dinner with her, and sometimes stayed overnight. This disrupted my daily life. This can't go on, I thought. One day, I sat him down for a talk. John, you've been coming home really late lately, and sometimes you don't even come home at all, I said. Is that so? I'm just worried about my mother, he replied. That's not the point. At least, let me know beforehand that you'll be late, so I'll know I don't have to prepare dinner. Since you're a housewife and always at home, you can eat the leftovers for lunch the next day, right? So you're saying I should just accept everything quietly because I'm a housewife? Are you saying we shouldn't talk about this? Isn't that the truth? Housewives just relax at home. What are you even saying? I'm worried about leaving my mother alone. Ellie will be coming back soon, and I need to discuss some things with her. Wait, Ellie is coming back. Ellie is John's sister, who currently lives abroad for work. It was the first time I heard she's coming back. But what does he need to discuss with his mother? Ellie's coming home, but what would she have to talk about with Mary? Curious, I asked my husband. We're moving Ellie here to live with us. Live together? Yes, she kept saying she wanted a big house like the one she lived abroad. That's why I thought of letting her stay in this house. What? I don't understand. Suddenly informed of this, I couldn't think of anything. Is my sister-in-law going to live in this house? I was just able to escape Mary's bickering. And now his sister. Wait a minute. Why is Ellie going to live in this house? This is the house I inherited from my father. It's unnatural. This is the only big house that would satisfy Ellie. The apartment where we used to live is now where my mother stays, and it's too small for 4 people. Don't just decide on your own. I never intended to live with Ellie. Oh, I don't plan to live together either. I intend to give this house to Ellie. What? Why? Because we plan to move back with my mother. Ellie can use this house freely. I was taken aback by my husband's unreasonable proposal and felt like fainting. Despite my repeated insistence that I had no intention of living with my mother-in-law, my husband eventually became furious. Can't you be a little more considerate? You can live because of me, so just do as I say. Enough is enough. Enough of your jokes. This house is precious to me, inherited from my father. Why should I give it to Ellie? Such a wonderful house is wasted on you, isn't it? I've already told Ellie that I've got her a large house. It's too late to say otherwise now. I wasn't consulted in any of this decision either way. I can't accept it. You're always complaining. Enough. Calm down and think. I'll go back to my mother's for a while. My husband angrily slammed the door and left. Left alone in the room, tears streamed down my face. I couldn't understand why my husband decided everything on his own. It's unimaginable that he intends to give away the house I inherited from my father to my sister-in-law. Every day, my husband sent me messages asking, "Have you calmed down? Come back soon." Each time, I had to firmly tell him that I had no intention of agreeing. But then one day, he said, "Hey, Emily, when will you come here and live with me?" Stop nagging. I said it so many times. I have no intention of living with Mary, moving there, and giving this house to Ellie. I've already told Ellie to stop being selfish. She might be coming back this week, so there's no time. Why should I give up my house for your family? I inherited this house from my father. Don't decide on your own. Who do you think you're talking to? Even my mother is furious. I'm at my wit's end. That's not my problem. You're ignoring my feelings. My husband let out a big sigh over the phone, clearly frustrated. Then he said something shocking. If you can't listen to me, then let's divorce. Hand over the house to Ellie. Leave by tomorrow. At that moment, my love for my husband quickly faded. Threatening me with the word divorce was utterly despicable, and I couldn't possibly forgive him for using divorce as a threat without considering someone's feelings. I couldn't let these people have their way. As I burned with anger, my husband continued to speak with a triumphant and dominating tone. Listen, if you don't leave by tomorrow, I'll really divorce you. Got it? Wait, are you serious? Of course I am. You don't have a choice. What will you do if you, a housewife, get divorced? You can't survive. Enough, I get it. Good, hurry up and move over here. My mother is looking forward to disciplining you. He hung up the phone with a confident tone, thinking I would do as he said. After that call, I made up my mind and decided to seek help from my father for a plan. The next day, my husband asked, "Is everything ready for the move?" "Yes, everything's ready," I replied calmly. "By the way, I'm curious about when Ellie will be back." "She'll be back tomorrow. Why are you so obsessed with Ellie?" "Between you and me, she seems to have made a lot from stock investments." "I see. So if you provide her with the house, maybe you can ask for financial help. That's so like you. Anyway, you need to leave that house by today. It's inconvenient for all of us." "Don't worry, I've already moved." "What? What do you mean?" My husband seemed genuinely surprised. "I knew it. You don't want to divorce me, do you? Naturally, without an income, you can't survive." "Maybe, but all of this is coming to an end. We're still married now, so that's why we're talking." "Wait, what?" I can only think about divorce now. My husband was clearly shaken by my words. "You promised to move out of that house, right, and live with me, but you've already moved." "What? What are you saying?" "Of course, I won't live in a house with a husband who decides everything on his own and a bullying mother-in-law." "Ha! Why are you including me? You promised to move out for Ellie." "I said I've already moved, didn't I?" "I did as you." "That's enough with the jokes. Where are you now?" My husband's tone was panicky, and he was clearly losing his cool. "Actually, I'm at my parents' house." "What? Why didn't you tell me that sooner?" My husband replied with a hint of relief in his voice. "If I could just give that house to Ellie, it doesn't matter where you live. It would require $3,300,000. $3,300,000? What? I put the house I got from my father up for sale. So if you really want to give it to Ellie, buy it for $3,300,000 and then hand it over." "Are you joking?" I'm serious." The house was still in my father's name, so I asked him to sell it. In reality, what I asked my father for was to sell the house. My father had always said if something happens, contact me. You can live or sell this house as you like. I'll help you. At that time, as a result of the valuation, a price of $3,300,000 was proposed, which I gladly agreed to and put the house on the market immediately. My husband probably never saw this coming. He spat out insults, consumed with anger. "Why are you doing this without asking me? This is unforgivable. Damn. I'm not asking for, nor do I need, your approval. We're getting divorced soon anyway. I don't care. Do you understand your position? You'll be the one in trouble if we divorce since you don't have an income. You're just a housewife. I'd rather struggle on my own than be with you forever. Listen, Ellie will be coming back soon. I told you I'm relying on Ellie's money, didn't I? So what? Like I said, if you want to let dear Ellie live in that house, just buy it for $3,300,000. That is, if you can." "What? That's impossible. If Ellie has made a lot of money from her investments, I don't see why she can't afford it." "I don't know how much she made, but that's too much. She can never afford it." My husband was all excuses with no hint of an apology, maintaining his domineering attitude. I felt it was foolish to spend any more time on him and unleashed everything I wanted to say. "I'm done with you and this ridiculous mess. Did you think threatening divorce would make me give up the house? If you thought being a housewife meant I'd do whatever you say, you're so wrong. Hey, let's calm down and talk." "I am calm. Isn't it you who's panicking? I won't be controlled by you or your family anymore. Stay out of my life. Go to hell with your beloved mother, you mama's boy." I shouted loudly enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, then abruptly hung up the phone. Of course, I'd had enough of these insane calls from my husband, so I blocked his number. I immediately consulted my lawyer and decided to request a divorce. It took some time, but the divorce was finalized, recognizing my husband's fault. He and Mary still live in that apartment. As for Ellie, they couldn't provide the large house she wanted, and she was furious, claiming this wasn't the deal, and she made a U-turn back overseas. My ex-husband's plan to seek financial assistance from his successful sister fell through. And now he seems to be struggling financially, having to pay me alimony and support his mother. As long as he continues to live with such a selfish mother, his life will never be prosperous. On the other hand, I've moved to the countryside and am enjoying peaceful days with my parents. I recently started a clerical job at a small company introduced by a neighbor. With that salary, I can live comfortably. I plan to live here for a while. I want to be by my parents' side as much as possible to repay the kindness they've shown me.